Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our panel session on Paycheck versus Fulfillment, Perspectives on an Industry Career. Joining us is a panel of engineers across different stages of their profession who will share their insights on pursuing a job in industry to demystify the realities of going into industry. The goals of this session is to inform you what led our panelists to industry, when pursuing a career in industry might be a reasonable choice, as well as to discuss how an industry career changes coming from a graduate student program background. First, to introduce myself, I'm Joseph Green, a fifth-year PhD candidate at Boston University and chair of the IEEE-HKN Graduate Student Activities Subcommittee. Joining us is my co-moderator, Rin. Welcome, Rin.
Hi, thanks, Joe. My name is Lauren Morris, but please call me Rin. I am a master's candidate at Missouri University of Science and Technology, and like Joe said, I am a volunteer for the Graduate Student Activities Subcommittee.
Awesome. Rin will be joining us again to lead the panel discussion. But before we dive into the panel itself, I just want to take a few moments to tell you about the Graduate Student Activities Subcommittee itself, as well as discuss some of the programming we have coming for the year. First and foremost, the Graduate Student Activities Subcommittee is a new initiative within HKN that's designed to develop resources for graduate students, create new opportunities for graduate students to succeed, as well as create opportunities for networks and recognition across HKN with the overarching goal of giving you opportunities you won't typically find on a college campus. This has led to Grad Lab, our podcast demystifying the realities of being a graduate student and all things you might find in grad school. It's also led to networking opportunities and networking events. This panel, and most excitingly, a program I wanted to feature, our mentoring program. This is the third year of doing IEEE-HKN's first student to professional mentoring program. In this program, we take graduate students and connect them to IEEE professionals across industry, defense, and academia to be able to make sure that you get guidance in career, technical, or personal advice you don't typically find on a college campus that's well tailored to your background as well as the target career you want to go into. This program over the last 3 years has impacted 42 people across the globe and remains one of IEEE-HKN's most highly rated programs. It's a free virtual program where you sign up, submit a short form, and we pair you with a mentor. It only requires about 2 to 4 hours a month and honestly has a tangible result on a lot of our participants, mentees and mentors alike. To show you a couple of the past mentors that we've had, we tried to bring you nothing but the best, people with many perspectives and bandwidth to give you the opportunities to succeed. We've had people like our panelist, John McDonald, who's a National Academy of Engineering inductee, chairs of programs, past board of governors, even our IEEE-HKN president, Ryan Bales, is a repeat mentor in our program. And this mentoring program has resulted in many benefits for, again, students and mentors alike. It's led to assistance with papers, internships, career advice, and more. To tell you a personal story, I participated in the first year of the program. Ryan was actually my mentor. He's not only helped me navigate my degree and mitigate some interpersonal conflict within my program track itself, but also helped me get my foot in the door in his place of work, Georgia Tech Research Institute. This led to an internship and is actually going to be my full-time place of work after I complete my PhD. So definitely feel encouraged to sign up. There's a QR code here for you to be able to register. We'll also have it up throughout this panel discussion, so if you don't grab it here, don't fret. With that, I'm going to turn over to Ren, who's going to guide us through the panel discussion, and I'll see everyone again come to Q&A. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you, Joe. So like we said, we're going to go ahead and move into our discussion. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to introduce our panelists. So would Ms. Katie Brinker introduce herself?
Sure, thank you. So like Ren said, my name is Katie Brinker. I have a PhD in electrical engineering, finished that up in December of 2022. So it's only been a little over a year now. And now for a job, I work as a senior non-destructive evaluation engineer at Pratt & Whitney. I also have a master's degree in electrical engineering and then did my bachelor's in electrical engineering. A couple other little tidbits about me. My focus area was electromagnetics. That's kind of my background. Did a NASA Space Technology Research Fellowship, got to do some research experiences at NASA Langley and NASA Goddard. and then also had some internships at places like Southwest Research Institute as well. So looking forward to the discussion and any questions that you all have.
Thank you, Katie. Next up is going to be Nazneen Akhtar.
Hello everyone, I'm Nazneen Akhtar. I have completed my PhD from Florida International University on electrical engineering. I did my master's as well in electrical, and before that I did my undergrad and master's in applied physics. I was like pretty much working on this terahertz noble materials, terahertz communication for the noble materials to get to have a like on-chip terahertz detector devices. That was my PhD focus kind of thing. Right now, I'm working with Intel as a module development engineer, and apart from this like a work and PhD study, I'm actively volunteering with different IEEE platform. Currently, I'm as working as an editor-in-chief for the IEEE Photoing Society newsletter, and also I'm representing IEEE USA as a student activities professional coordinator. I'm really looking forward for this panel discussion.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Mr. John McDonald.
Yeah, thanks, Rin. So I'm John McDonald, and I have a bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering from Purdue University, specializing in power. And I also have an MBA from University of California, Berkeley, specializing in finance. I've been an IEEE member 53 years, and I was inducted into HKN 53 years ago at Purdue. I'm an IEEE Life Fellow, and though I've worked in industry over 50 years with 6 different companies, but I've published over 150 papers and articles, co-authored 5 books in electrical engineering, and have 1 U.S. patent, and teach at a number of universities. So I'm an industry person, but I do a lot of work with universities as an adjunct professor. Thank you.
Thank you. So now that we've kind of met our panelists a little bit and have a background on them, we're going to move into our panel discussion. So I have some questions that we're going to be asking them, but these are, of course, the 3 main objectives of today. So what are the realities of industry career versus academia? What factors influence your decision to go into and stay in industry? And how did you advance in your career? So the first question I'm actually going to ask John McDonald is, what is a typical day like as an industry engineer, and how does it compare to being a graduate research assistant in academia?
You know, I think a couple of the biggest differences, in industry, we spend a lot of time with customers. Okay, so it's not just like working at your desk, but we spend a lot of time because if you develop something, you don't want to develop it in a vacuum. You want to make sure you're developing something that would have real value to customers, to industry, and you really need customer input. We call it VOC, or voice of customer sessions, and we spend a lot of time with customers. Okay, I think the second thing is we spend a lot of time with IEEE, organizations like IEEE. The thing is, we could develop something very, very good in industry, but unless you know what IEEE standards are, unless you know what's happening at IEEE, you may develop something that is obsolete in 8 months because you weren't aware of a new standard being developed with a new communications standard, and you didn't implement that in your product. Okay, so you need to have a balance between, I say, internal, your job, and external, what's happening in the world around you, to make sure that what you're doing in industry will have value and long-term value to customers.
Thank you. Nazneen or Katie, do you guys have anything to add?
I do agree with like John, like talking with so many customers, both internal and external customers, understanding their need, and based on that, we have to create the interface and improve the process and modules so that we can run everything smoothly. As you guys know, I'm working in Intel, and we are doing like chip development and everything. So we have to like understand what the market demands is, what the like future demand, and what currently in between intel as well we need to like develop. So working with customers, knowing their needs, and then working on those solutions, finding out sometimes we don't even have like any like a problem statement. We have to create the problem statement itself, then we need to create the solution for that problem. So yeah, that's how the industry work looks like.
Yeah, I completely agree with what they were saying. And just to kind of add a little bit of a different perspective, I think another difference for me has been, I think there tends to be a lot more urgency in my industry career than there was in being a graduate research assistant. In being in grad school, it was kind of a little bit more flexible timelines. It was, okay, trying to answer these research questions. Some days are good days and you get a lot done and do a lot of experiments. Some days are a little bit slower and you think on stuff a little bit longer. In industry, it can kind of be like, well, we have something we need to get out to the customer tomorrow, or you have to report on this in an hour, or, we got parts in, you need to measure them before you go home today. So there can be a little bit more urgency, I think, in some of the things that I do in industry versus what I did in academia.
Yeah, of course. So I have a kind of a bounce off question for that, but how did you guys learn how to do all that sort of stuff? Because I know, at least for me, like I've been in industry and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm still trying to learn myself. So how did you guys learn how to do that sort of stuff?
Well, I think one thing that's really helpful is just getting paired with more senior people at your company. So I think the places where I've learned the most is the projects where I've gotten to work with somebody who's been in the group for the last 20 years and they know how to navigate all the systems. They know all the acronyms. They know all the every other thing in between, and they can kind of guide you on, what's the best way to approach this, how to speak to different people in different roles in the business as well, because how you present information to a VP is very different from how you may present information to a vendor. So they can help you kind of navigate that, and you just kind of have to read between the lines and pick up on the context clues and observe and learn along the way is kind of how I've done it.
I would
Just
say
that-
when you're starting out, especially, never say no to anybody that asks you to do something. Okay? Always find the time to do it. On the other hand, always volunteer for every possible opportunity that's available to you, because that's how you learn, And I see three benefits, from doing that. One is you learn technology at a much deeper level, because the more you do, the more you're exposed to different perspectives on technology. Second is you build up your network of key contacts. The more people you work with, particularly experienced people, and utilize those contacts. And third is look for leadership opportunities. Always volunteer to do stuff. Never say you don't have enough time. You don't want to be known. Your reputation is very important. Okay? Always in your career. You don't be known as somebody that may say no to something, because people won't give you any future opportunities. They'll just assume that you're going to say no. Never say you don't have time to do something. Always be willing to do it. Always do a good job. Always beat deadlines, and always be very positive, be friendly, and be very supportive, and provide value to everybody you work with every second of the day. And I think you'll learn the most you can, and you'll have a lot of opportunities available to you.
I want to add one more thing, just to always have a like curious mind open, always ask question, look around, like make connections with more people, and ask like the question no need to be like some like having a solid foundation. Sometimes it could be a just lame question. Just to start asking around. Maybe sometimes you are going to get something new information from that simple question. So never afraid of asking question, no matter what kind of question that is. So
awesome. Thank you guys for your answers. So, shifting gears slightly, I'm going to ask what are some sources of fulfillment in your current role versus being in academia, where you were publishing, going to conferences, presenting your work, maybe even receiving some funding for your work? And I'm going to go ahead and ask, let's start with Nesreen this time.
Okay. On that part, like, yeah, in terms of like academia, we do have the like facilities or like abilities to like publish paper. But if you work in an industry and where you are getting the opportunity to work on like take various advanced level of like work, you can still have the opportunity to do patents and publish your paper as well. So it's not like if it's not the end of the world if you join industry you are not going to publish or something like that. You also have the like capability and possibility for from industry perspective as well. So you can make your fulfillment on that side as well. So
I could say for in industry, one of the greatest feelings is when you work with a customer, and whether it's product or the application of product or whatever it is, and the customer's organization is very successful in doing something that they weren't able to do before. And when they look at you and say, John, you and your company uh, helped us be successful, and we couldn't have done it without your help. And how happy they are, how confident they are, and you had a part of that. That really feels good. The other thing is teaching a class, and people in the class that come up to you at break or after the class and say, "Wow, I have a new assignment at work. I took this class because I really don't know what to do or where to start. And with all the material you've talked about, I now have a much more confident, and I have a much better um, I have a much better perspective on what I need to do." I think everyone needs to be muted, Bryn?
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to figure out who is not muted. But whilst I figure that out, Katie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think another source of fulfillment for me is just getting to develop new technology that'll set my group up to be in a better place in the future as well. So finding those opportunities for internal R&D funding, or even we do some work with government proposals. So we have larger projects that we work, getting to figure out new ways or new technologies that we can develop that will set us up to just be able to do an even better job in the future. I think those are just really cool opportunities to be able to dig in and push the technology forward.
Excellent. So thank you guys. So this last question sort of related to this sort of topic that I'm going to ask is, and I think I'll also start with Katie for this question, is how relevant is your graduate degree to your current role? Is it realistic to utilize the skills you built in your graduate degree and apply them to your industry role?
Yeah, for me, I use my graduate education every day. So my graduate education was in electromagnetics, and specifically I was researching non-destructive evaluation methods. So being a non-destructive evaluation engineer, there's a lot of transference there. But even things like, during grad school, I got really good at electromagnetic modeling. That's a skill that I've been able to transfer into my current role and bring into my job. And it's something additional I bring to the table and kind of gives me an edge, because that's a skill that it takes a while to develop that, and you get to dig into those kind of things in grad school and develop those skills. Even things like how to make good measurements, do good design of experiment, those are things that I use every day too. So I think overall it's been super relevant to me and or for my job, and there's just so many skills that I developed in grad school that I'm using every single day.
Excellent. Thank you. Do either of our other panelists have anything to add?
I would say two examples come to mind. My graduate work in electrical engineering and power. My master's thesis was the first time in the world that anyone had gotten this software program to work, and that was 50 years ago. and it's now a standard software application in the industry, offered by many different suppliers. So that, it feels good because the work we did is commercialized now to a great extent. The mathematics I used in the optimization was interesting. In graduate school at Purdue in electrical engineering, I learned the optimization techniques. Now I'm taking an MBA at Berkeley in finance, and I'm using the same optimization mathematics to optimize a portfolio of a portfolio of investments, minimize risk and maximize return, right? And that was pretty cool to take something from electrical engineering and power and now apply it on the business world. So I think there's a lot of similarities, when you think about it, and the stuff you do in graduate school has a lot of use.
Excellent. Does anybody else have anything to add to these first couple of questions before we switch gears a little bit to a different topic?
I think I'm going to add one more thing. The thing
Sure.
is, like, during PhD study, like, we had, like, I had the opportunity to work on, like, starting from designing my own chip, then fabricating the whole chip, and then doing the, like, characterization and everything. So while I did the fabrication on my chip, it was like I had to do everything by myself, like starting from the pattern transfer, etching, and then doing the using electrobeam lithography. I have to like a pattern more like nanometer scale kind of thing. But the same thing I'm doing right now, but in a larger scale. So industry will give you the opportunity to like having giving the exposure on a like larger amount of scale and enriching your like capability and ability, and also like the way like Katie mentioned, like design of experiment and everything, you will get the chance to develop a new process and new things using those tech as well. So
Excellent. All right. So with that, we're going to shift gears just a little bit to the sort of that second major topic that we talked about. So my first question I'm going to direct toward Katie and Nazneen is, what interested you about going into industry after your degree versus academia? Did you have any considerations or hesitations about your decision?
should I go first?
Sure, you can take it first.
Thank you. Actually, I was pretty passionate to come to industry because the thing I was like mentioning in my previous comment, that in the industry scale, you will be able to see the larger like vision, like how you are trying to, like whatever design you have in your mind, how you can make it in a larger scale. So those kind of like capability you can have. So that was kind of like my like motivation toward coming to industry, to see the larger volume. Even when I first time I went to the Intel fab, it was like kind of a surreal kind of like experience, like how this HBM works and how the whole operation system and everything works. So that's kind of exposure I was like very much willing to have in my career. Maybe like few years later I could maybe I'm going to start up my own business or something like that. But before that, I wanted to have this kind of exposure. That actually drive me to come to industry. But I'm not against to like academia. If someone has like the interest to go to academia, they are most welcome to go there. It actually depends on your passion or how you want to see your career. So that's how you're going to design your career base and everything.
Yeah. For me, I never really had an interest in going into academia. It wasn't something that I really wanted to pursue. I did want to have a research-based career, get to do research in my job, and that's what led me to pursue a master's and then a PhD. But for me, it was just wanted a different combination of responsibilities. I guess I saw kind of what my graduate advisors were doing and kind of all the different pieces of their job, and mentoring and managing graduate students, running a lab, teaching, doing research, writing proposals. There was just so many different pieces moving around. And there's a lot of pieces moving around in an industry career too, but maybe just slightly different distribution. And so for me, it was just a better fit, I felt, was going into industry or national lab research type career.
Yeah. So kind of piggybacking off that question just a little bit, how did you find your position post grad school, and what are the realities of trying to find that first position?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with this one. So for me, I tried to cast a wide net and start really early. So looking on LinkedIn, looking at different companies that my lab had an industry advisory board. So there was various companies that would work with us directly and that would visit twice a year and have industry advisory board meetings. So looking at those companies as well, knowing that they had non-destructive evaluation as a big thing there. And then started applying really early. I knew I was going to defend in November, and I started looking around kind of February, March, and just applying to jobs, looking for different positions, putting stuff out there. Some feedback I got was, we don't know, talk to us in August, talk to us 7 months from now. And some feedback was, okay, let's do an interview. Let's like talk about this now. And I think that kind of worked out in my favor because the job I have now, I was able to start remotely while I was finishing up my PhD and work part-time. So that was kind of an opportunity that came from starting so early. And then also too, didn't have the stress of trying to like find a job and write a dissertation at the exact same time.
I think it's really got to be a combination to me of what your passion is, what you want to do, but also you want to leverage any internship experience, any positive internship experience you had. In my case, when I was going to Purdue, I had internships at a consulting engineering company, and I really enjoyed that work. And so when on-campus interviews happened, there was a similar company, but much bigger, interviewing. And they saw that I liked the work, but they also saw I had a lot of experience in that. And because of that, I could be productive on the first day of hiring. There very little training was needed. Because of that, I got a really high starting salary, okay? Because I did a good job of leveraging the internship experience I had. And they were amazed at how much knowledge and experience I already had as a student, and I think that, so that's something, to me, it's a combination of obviously a positive internship experience, but also making sure it's something you want to do and have a passion for it.
Excellent, thank you. So John, I have another question for you. Throughout your extensive career that you've had, how did you stay on top of the cutting edge technology of power and smart grids throughout your career? And how did you grow and maintain that knowledge?
Yeah, because things today are changing much faster than they did before. You can't just come to work every day, do good work, and go home and stay abreast of what's happening. You can't. It's impossible. So I say you have to have a good balance between and find the time for internal and external activities. Internal activities is the work you do, but just as important is things like IEEE and other industry organizations, but you can't just go to those and sit in the back of the room. You've got to go present papers, teach courses, moderate panel sessions, take leadership positions, because the more you put into something, the more you get out. Okay. For instance, there's a big conference every year, and I volunteer to be on the advisory board. I chair one of the technical tracks. I have a team of 7 people. We review 80 to 90 abstracts every year in this technical track. I have another position running the technical activities for the United States for an international organization. And I just submitted 92 papers from US authors for a session in Paris in August. And we review about 100 papers every year for a US conference, a Grid of the Future conference we have every November. So look for strategic volunteer positions, that where you're reviewing abstracts, reviewing papers, moderating sessions, and get involved in those things. And then what you don't realize is all this stuff that you're doing, you're keeping abreast of what's going on. And if someone says to you, what are the 5 key trends? You're not speculating. You've just reviewed papers and you know exactly what they are, and you can pinpoint which companies are at the forefront and who's writing papers about it. So to me, it's a balance between strategic balance between internal and external activities.
Excellent, thank you. So due to a little bit of time restraints, we're going to move to our third main topic. So I have a question gearing more towards Katie and Nazine this time. Did you notice that your specific graduate degree, limited your opportunities? Did it open opportunities? What was your perspective on that?
I think it's actually opened the opportunities, because if you have a specific set of skill sets that actually give you the platform to during the interview, you can actually share that what kind of skill set you have and how you can contribute on their space as well. So yeah, definitely it gives you, it always opens opportunity. And as John is always mentioning, whenever you have time, do voluntary activities, learn more, take the leadership position, because people always want to see in you that you are always taking the responsibility, taking the ownership of a certain task and lead that task. So if you have those kind of both soft skill and and also the hard skill as well, that time you are the most promising candidate for that particular position.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in my experience, having a graduate education, it hasn't necessarily limited the opportunities. It's just maybe changed the flavor of the opportunities a little bit. So, I applied for jobs, full-time positions, senior year of undergrad, towards the end of my master's, and then towards the end of my PhD. I'm just kind of trying to figure out options, figuring out what's next. And, something that I've kind of noticed through those 3 kind of job cycles has been having a graduate degree. One, graduate education counts as experience as well. So, rather than going into an entry-level role, going into a senior-level role. But then 2, getting to work kind of more on the R&D side of things, or getting to help figure out how to approach the problems rather than just implementing the solution. So it's kind of like applications, implementing somebody else's idea versus getting to come up with the idea. And that's obviously a spectrum. It changes from opportunity to opportunity, job to job. But that's kind of the general trend I've noticed, having a graduate degree, how that differs in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, of course. And so for John, kind of piggybacking off that a little bit, how do companies perceive higher education? And has it changed over the years in your experience?
I think as time has gone on, used to be, when I graduated over 50 years ago with a master's degree, it was kind of somewhat unique. It wasn't as common, let's say, and it was a real differentiator. I would say today it's a little bit more common. It's not as much of a differentiator as it used to be. The real world today is more interdisciplinary than specialists. So I think to be successful, you don't want to specialize. You want to, you can specialize, but don't stop there. You really need to have good knowledge of many related fields and a strong network that can help you in those related fields. So I think today, for me, 2 master's degrees back 50 years ago was very good, both in business and engineering. But today I see almost that very common, and particularly in our field in power engineering, we're hiring a lot of data scientists today for the first time because there's a strong IT emphasis now in power engineering. Masters in data science and knowledge of the power system, which was never heard of before, but today it's a real differentiator. So I would say it's more common today, and what's and if you can get more advanced degrees, but in related but different fields that are collaborative, then I think it helps you in the workplace, because that's what companies are looking for. They could hire you, or they could hire two people with master's degrees in each of those, and they'd rather hire you with two master, one with knowledge in both areas, than hire two people and have those two people work together.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So the last question that I'm going to be asking before we move into the Q&A portion of today's session is, what advice would you give a grad student who's considering a career in industry after they graduate? And anyone can start it. John, if you have something, Nazneen, Katie.
What was the question, Rin, again?
Oh, sorry. What advice would you give to a grad student who's considering a career in industry after they graduate?
Hopefully, and Katie talked about, hopefully they have some internship experience. Again, some time ago, internships weren't as common. Today, they're very common. And I would say not internship with the same company, but maybe 2 or 3 internships with different companies, to get a variety of experience. To me, when companies are looking at graduates, if you don't have any work experience at all, you're going to have a problem, because there's so many students out there that have work experience. So I would say, first of all, hopefully you've had some internship, some work experience, hopefully with different companies. And then the thing is, leverage that, and if one of those was in a field you really enjoyed, then really target and go after companies that are in that field, and leverage the work experience you have, to help you get into that company.
Yeah, I think in terms of advice for graduate students looking for industry careers, a couple things. I mean, number one, I would say keep an open mind when you're looking for opportunities. There's a big world of many jobs out there. So, there may be companies that aren't on your radar that would have a position that you would love to do. So keep an open mind when you're looking. Don't just write everything off. Informational interviews can be a good way to learn more, or reach out to your network and, understand what those positions are like. So I think that's all very valuable. And then two, going back to being involved with IEEE, being involved with IEEE throughout your graduate education and throughout being a student, you're building your network. I know when I was starting to look for jobs, I was talking to people in the Instrumentation and Measurement Society, and they were like, hey, look at my company. If you see a job posting that you like and you're interested in, let me know and I'll refer you. And so just having those people who are in your corner and who are ready to advocate for you, that can be a big help too.
In my view, I'm agreeing with both John and Katie, but just one thing I want to add, even though having an internship is definitely a good thing, but if for some reason you don't have the internship in your career, but you are trying to search for industry immediately after your graduation, then I would suggest start early. Try at least one semester before your graduation, so that you have the opportunity to explore all those opportunities available in the job market. And if having a job earlier, before even your graduation, that would be a kind of less stressful for you, and you will be able to do your dissertation in a much easier way. So yeah, start early, build a network, and be open-minded, as Katie mentioned. So those are the info I'm going to share.
Hey, Rin, just to piggyback on what Katie said, in the 6 companies I worked for in 50 years, 5 of my 6 job changes were through friends in my network. Think about it, 5 of the 6. Some of these opportunities I wasn't aware of until friends in my network contacted me. Hey, John, there's a position perfect for you, and I can line up an interview for you in 2 days if you're interested. So I can't, it's so important to build that network and cultivate that and keep up with your network contacts because they will really help you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I did something very similar to a friend of mine today with the company that I work at. I said, let me go see if there's anything out there that I think would benefit with him. And we found him something that we think would he applied for, and we'll see. But thank you guys so much for your lovely discussions. I'm going to turn it over to Joe for the Q&A portion. I know we're running just a little late, but thank you guys so much, and we're open for questions.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys again. Each of you brought some amazing points that really helped me personally as I'm looking forward for my post-PhD career. Just a couple of takeaways I noted down. The necessity of finding a broad base. We go through all of this effort, particularly in a graduate program, to find specialized skills to be able to perform some engineering task. But in particular, soft skills and networking seem to have a huge influence over your potential in industry. In conjunction, it seems like there's a lot of opportunity for fulfillment. At least in my PhD lifestyle here, there's kind of a, we'll say, misconception that going into industry limits your potential to do interesting or fulfilling research. And it was very rewarding to hear all your opportunities to seek that fulfillment in a different environment outside of academia. One aspect I particularly enjoyed, Nazneen, was your final comment talking about what to do if you don't have an internship experience. I think we've all talked about the necessity of building those soft skills, building those networks, as well as volunteer opportunities to teach you some of these essentials you might get out of a program. Pointing it back to John, if for whatever reason a graduate student is coming out of an intensive program without internship experience, how do you think they can best prepare for a job in industry? And John, that's a question to you.
So what I would do would be to think about the experience you have with what you've been studying, and I think what's important is when you look for a job is think about use all the available resources, the career fair at the university, the career center at the university, your network of contacts. But think about, first of all, what is it you want to do? You have no work experience. So what is it that you want to do? What you've heard about, maybe what companies interest you, right? And then use your network, friends of friends of friends, utilize your network to try to get contacts at those companies. Sending a resume to a company a cold call is not real effective. You really want a personal in to the company. So look for ways to find a personal in to the companies you're interested in. And I think if you don't have the work experience, you've got to be a little bit more targeted, and really go after it a little bit more and really utilize your network, and really do some research on your own and find that personal in to the companies you're interested in.
Awesome, thank you. In a similar vein, as a question to Nazneen and Katie, being newer or young professionals in their career, what was your number one skill after your PhD that helped you break into industry? Was it a technical skill, a soft skill, or other? You can start with whoever wants to take it.
Go ahead, Nazneen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Katie. I will say the combination of both. First of all, as a hard skill, I have the fabrication skill. I know how to fabricate a chip, starting from design to fabricate it, and then characterization. All kind of skills that I had, and in terms of soft skill, as we all are discussing, having the leadership kind of mentality and having taking the ownership kind of mentality, this kind of soft skill really helps you. For example, for any industry related interview session, they were always asking for if you given a problem, are you going to take the ownership of that problem? I was like, even before giving the problem, I want to take the ownership of that particular problem, because they are kind of like thinking, trying to find someone who is actually trying to lead a problem and then find out the solution. Starting as I have previously mentioned, like sometimes you don't know what the problem is. You have to find the problem first, write down the problem statement, then go for like search for different, like ask different questions and try to find out the solution from that questions, and then establish like what you have learned throughout the process. So those kind of mentality they are also looking for us, so having a combination of both really helps a lot.
Yeah. For me, I think non-destructive evaluation is just a small field in general. It's a very necessary field for a lot of industries, but it's also a small field. So, you know, the joke in NDE is, oh, you know the word eddy current, you can get a job. So it's like, you know the bare basics, you know what NDE is. That's almost an in and of itself. But beyond that, you know, having an engineering background in NDE, knowing some of the different tools that get used, and just being able to parlay that into my everyday work. I think one of the things that graduate school taught me is just how to be resourceful and how to approach problems from many different ways. And when you're working hard problems that, you know, don't have obvious solutions but need a solution really fast, knowing how to approach things in a bunch of different directions, I think is a good skill that's helped me kind of establish myself in my career and continue to grow.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. We've actually gotten a couple of questions on the chat requesting a little bit more information on your ability to choose your research and industry. To kind of combine a couple of questions together, Nazneen, you mentioned the opportunity to publish. So in your day-to-day life, what is your opportunity to seek out your own research? And then considering that your research is tied to a company now, how does that affect your ability to publish on that research? And we can make our way around after Nazneen talks.
So the thing is like as we are like working on different tech nodes, like upcoming future nodes and everything, so there is like always room for like improvement and progress. And if you can find something that is really innovative, and if you can show those things to your manager or like a line manager, so they will actually be very much helpful to know those kind of thing that you have like something innovative in process in your mind, and they will help you to they will give you the facilities to actually work on those things, so that you can write down a paper. First it will be like for the Intel proprietary, if they think like it's really publishable and to have a patent or something like that, they will actually give you the opportunity to submit the patent or file a research paper or something like that. So it's actually up to you how much innovative mentality you have and what new things you can bring to the table. If you can add something interesting to the table, definitely you are going to have that platform to publish those. So like it's up to you.
Great. And looking at the time, Katie, would you like to follow up with that? And then, John, we have a closing question for you.
Yeah, and I mean here it's really similar at my company as well. You know, IP is a big thing, so they're very big on IP disclosures and putting in patent applications, things like that. That's a big thing that they promote. Publishing papers is a little bit more challenging, but there's forms and processes, and you know, if you want it, you can go after it. So yeah, I think completely agree with what Nazneen was saying, and it's very similar here as well.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And John, as a final question for you, you touched upon this, and also Ryan Bales mentioned this in the chat. Opportunity really doesn't wait. It doesn't wait until you have a down moment to give you the chance to jump into something new. So a couple of the questions in the chat were really, how do you balance the busyness and temptation to take on many tasks with a work-life balance? How do you navigate keeping yourself open to opportunity without overworking yourself and burning out in the process?
That's a good question. And to tie into the previous question with this one, Joe, I'm kind of a unique industry person with over 150 papers and articles and co-authored 5 books. and teach at universities. I became an IEEE fellow 21 years ago, competing with a lot of academics back before we had the fellow categories that we have today that help industry people become fellow. Because I've always made the time, right? Work-life balance, always put a high priority on writing papers and books, working on books, okay? Because I think it's, we all want to leave a legacy to the industry. The worst thing is you retire after 40 or 50 years and all this experience of work you had, you haven't left anything for younger people to learn from. You haven't impacted your industry at all. You've worked and then you've gone away. And it's important for all of us, and I think it's important to help teach everyone all the knowledge and experience you have. So you should never give an excuse that you don't have time to do something. I don't agree with that. It's not that you don't have time. It wasn't important enough for you to spend the time to do it. So don't tell me you don't have the time to do it. You find the time to do the things that are important for you to do. And many times someone will come up to me, hey, John, I need your help. And people standing next to me will say, John, you don't have the time to do that. And I said, no, I'll find the time to do it because I want to help this person, So what you have to do, truthfully, is you learn how to be very, very good at time management. You learn how to be effectively work. I keep a list of the things I need to do. It's dynamic. I know the deadlines, and I have a very effective way to work. And when I put together an IEEE team of people, I look for the busiest people I can find to be on my team. Not the least busy, but the busiest. The busiest people pride themselves on multitasking. They pride themselves on doing a good job with everything that they do. They never say no. They're extensively networked in IEEE, and they do great work. Okay, so this is the model to me is pride yourself on being able to do a lot of things at the same time, but you got to be effective with time management. You really have to know how to manage your time. And everything you do is quality with family, with work. And the biggest thing today with work is you got to take enough breaks. We sit in front of the computer too much, and then we wonder why our work isn't as good as we want. Get up and take a break. Go outside and take a walk, because you need to recharge. And I find people don't take enough breaks today. And that's one thing we have to do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. And I think there was a lot of great final points to address there. Making sure that you take on opportunity, but you're doing it well and making a good reputation for yourself. And also focusing on giving yourself the bandwidth to perform that good work versus overloading yourself with tasks. And the fact that opportunity can often come outside the workplace, like through volunteering with IEEE. So I think that's a good note to end this panel on. I'm going to thank all of our amazing speakers once again for taking the time to come and discuss these critical perspectives with us. And thank you to my co-moderator, Ren. As Sylvie mentioned in the chat, we do have a networking hour after this where you get a chance to network with us and other speakers throughout the day. So please feel encouraged, if we didn't get to your question, to come along and ask it there. And thank you so much again. Bye now.